I am going to introduce you to the new Rockstars. Any fans out there? New Rockstars, all right. Comic fandom culture and really a nerd sensation. That's the only way to put it. So you're going to meet Evan Yee, the director of programming for the Break Room, part of the new Rockstars network, and John Costa, head of development and production. And together they're going to talk to you about how they keep it going across channels and probably dazzle you with a few bizarre pieces of trivia along the way. You never know. So enjoy the new Rockstars. Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, I'm John, and I'm Evan. Nice to be here. I almost said LA, Las Vegas.
We're in Vegas. We're going to talk to you about a bunch of different stuff. Primarily, we have a couple of YouTube channels we want to talk to you about, and basically our production pipeline for both of those channels. So let's get into it. Who are we? We're new Rockstars. We have nothing to do with music. Bad name. Bad name. But I guess a lesson that we learned working at New Rockstars is that a name doesn't matter. No one knows what a Google is. And we have nothing to do with music. But what we do is we are sort of like a movie and TV show breakdown company. So if you're, watching Severance and you're like, okay, what's the deal with the baby goats? We got you covered. Come to our YouTube channel and we explain things like that. In our lifetime, we have done 2 billion views, $11 million in just YouTube AdSense, 5 million subscribers across our channels. And the most important thing is we do 500 videos a year. And we kind of want to explain to you guys how we do 500 videos a year with a really small team. I should also say, if you guys have questions, please interrupt us at any time. Throw a hand up, and we'll happy to be answering those questions. Yeah, let's get into it. So, the majority of our videos are like a 15-hour turnaround from shoot to publish. And so, that's a really unique situation for us. So I just kind of want to explain how we're able to do this kind of turnaround in this kind of amount of time. So let's go from pre-production to post-production. Most of the time, you're going to be looking at a script that looks like this. I don't know if this is so unique to the digital space, but you can see here it's like a multi-column script. You have text and then a visual side. This is not what our scripts look like. This is more so what our scripts look like. Just text, right? And so the reason I just kind of wanted to bring this up is, our process, we lean really, really heavily on our post-production individuals. So that means giving our post team a ton of agency to be able to kind of like pick the shots that they want. That's, something that's unique to our company, which, introduces some extra challenges. We have to train our editors in a very specific way because we're giving them the decision making, right? They are the ones who are choosing the shots. We're not telling them exactly what we want them to put into the video at any given moment. And that's a big ask. And so, realistically, when we're trying to turn these videos around in the speed that we're trying to do at 15 hours, right? We just simply don't have time to get into it like this. So, I guess I want to emphasize right now, this is a workflow that works for us. And so find a workflow that works best for you. I'm just out of curiosity, the people who are here, just trying to understand so I can speak to the people in the crowd. What level are people at? What are people trying to get from this conversation? I want to know, like, raise a hand if you're relatively new to the digital space, relatively new to YouTube. Okay, most people.
Nice.
Veterans,
YouTube fans.
Love it. Okay, so if you're a little bit more, you've been doing this for a little while, if you raise a hand for that, you're a little bit more comfortable in what you're doing. Okay, most people are a little bit more comfortable. So maybe we kind of zip through some of this stuff and talk about some of the grittier details. Okay, so pre-production. We have the script written. This is one of our hosts, Eric. We use a service called Riverside. Their booth is actually right around the corner here. This is mostly like a collaboration tool if you're doing remote video interviews or podcasts or things like that. The reason that we use this is because we can get our footage uploaded as we're recording it. So if we have a long record, we don't have to record to a card and then spend all the time uploading it, have our editors download it after the fact. It's really nice using Riverside because as we're shooting, it's uploading and we can have remote editors working on it as soon as we hit cut, which is a very nice.
And obviously, with Riverside, there's some compression that, it's not the same type of quality that's coming out of the camera. But we also know that, as much as people love Eric's face, Eric's not he's not fully in the video. There's lots of assets, lots of things coming up. So we know that it's not going to be the prime, thing that needs to be like the sharpest. As much as, we want to preserve the quality, and we'll get into more some of how, some of our other channels use cameras, and like the native footage and stuff like that. But I think that's, another reason to use Riverside, right? With the speed, just because of the remote editors and like how long it would take for us to distribute some of the footage. Cause some of our videos or all of our videos are getting longer and longer.
Yeah. And, another important part of this process is we're just shooting on a seamless and the lighting is consistent and all that kind of stuff. That is really, all of these things that we're going to talk about are systems that we put in place to be as efficient as possible. So the host can sit down in the chair, the teleprompter is ready, we hit record, we do it in one take. It's, trying to be efficient because we're talking about a 15-hour turnaround. Our competitors are doing 6 hours. And so, we'll talk about the edit in a second. That is where we feel like we have a competitive advantage against some of our competitors. But they beat us in speed. So whatever we can do to become more efficient is really valuable to us. So obviously channel to channel, space to space, it's going to, some people are putting out one video every month. That's great. That's not our business model. So being able to use tools like Riverside and a couple of other things that I want to show you in a minute are, I would argue, like not optimal, right? They're not a perfect way of producing this content, but sometimes for us, we have to take a step back and say, okay, well, in order to compete and stay competitive, we need to implement certain efficiencies in our workflow, and that is at a quality sacrifice sometimes. So it's difficult as the head of production to give away quality to, our content team who is saying, okay, well, how fast can we get this out? So, I really view my position as like Evan as a producer. What does Evan want? How can I accomplish that for him? Sure, sometimes, that means cutting corners, and it's a little difficult and frustrating, but realistically, I need to understand that, this is a collaborative industry and I'm trying to give content exactly what they need. And a lot of the time for us at our channel, that is speed.
Yeah.
So we shoot in Riverside and then we have a team of contracted editors. So you can see this is a breakdown file structure that we did for Daredevil episode 7. Daredevil episode 7 came out last week. And this is what the file structure looks like. We are using Dropbox, which is another example of, inefficiencies. Dropbox is not really built to be, I got a chuckle from someone in the crowd. Not great, to be honest with you, but we found that this works for us and is super fast and efficient because we don't have our editors local. We don't have a remote office. Everyone is work from home for the most part, contractors. And so this allows our contractors to only be downloading very specific files. We don't have to build out huge servers that are very expensive on our own. This takes care of backups for us. It's a system that sort of works and sort of works is oftentimes good enough when we're moving at the pace that we're moving. So finding systems that work for us that are really efficient is super important. We did talk to the guys over at Lisa Link. Maybe we're checking out. Who knows? But you can see, right? Like when you're talking about making a 35+ minute video in this amount of time, we have these videos split into different project files for different editors. So we're shipping our full project into in this case, four different little sections. And we'll send that out to our contract editors. And we send that out at like 7 p.m. at night. We look for it back at 9 a.m. the next day. These are all folks that live in America for the most part. And so that's a little bit of a difficult job for them. So really if you're a fan of New Rockstars, hello, hi, thank you for being here. The bread and butter of what we do is our freelance editing team. It's incredible. I don't know how they do it. We send them a video in the middle of the night. We ask for it in the middle of the morning. And they're really good. So after that, what we do, and here's an example of a timeline. Not super interesting. I don't know. You can see we keep all of our A-roll on that bottom left layer there, and then all of our B-roll on top. But another point of efficiency is we have some, I hope that this is big enough, and maybe it's not, but this whole timeline here is just assets, right? We make a similar style of video every single day. And this timeline has been super helpful for all of our editors to just be able to pull, this consistent asset or whatever and drag it and drop it. Hopefully while we're talking, I'm sure this is not going to apply to every single person that's sitting here, but, I think if you can just grab a couple of little nuggets here and there, that's awesome. Okay, cool. This is the insider stuff. YouTube, there's going to be a little YouTube algorithm conversation in one of these stages right after this. I'm going to head over there and see if we can learn some stuff, but here's what we've learned. YouTube is changing how they do mid-rolls, starting in May.
Mid-rolls being the ads that you see that pop up, when you're watching YouTube, from YouTube themselves, right?
There's a couple ways to do mid-rolls. You can have YouTube place them automatically. We did that for a number of years. We never found it to be maximizing revenue. So here's what a timeline looks like. This looks like a 20-odd minute video. You can see we kind of front load ads. So we have 5 ad placements in the first 5 minutes. That sounds like a nightmare for a user. Here's what our understanding is. Our understanding is that these are opportunities. These are not guarantees, right? So if you're watching one of our YouTube videos, the YouTube algorithm is going to serve you one of these and not all of them, or a few of these and not all of them. So when we're placing ads manually, we are, first of all, one of the more important, I forgot to add this slide. One of the more important things that we're looking for is average view duration, right? It's way less important to us to get views, way less important to us to get subscribers, so much more important to us to get watch time, right? Here is a back-end screenshot of a 13-minute video. I don't know if you guys saw the big Marvel announcement of the cast of Avengers Doomsday that came out. This was a 13-minute video, 870,000 views. The RPM is 550. So this video, when I screenshotted this morning, has had about $5,000 worth of ad revenue on 870,000 views. Here's the same screenshot of a Severance breakdown, 42-minute video, 472,000 views, so like half the views. But the RPM is $16.70 because it's a 42-minute video. So, we've found getting longer videos, getting longer watch time is really the key to monetizing best on YouTube. You got to find a sweet spot for what you can accomplish. It's really hard to make a 42-minute video every single day. So our typical video is coming in, closer to that 13 minutes. But you can see, right? Like, even though this video got 870,000 views, the RPM's really low. We didn't make as much money on it. Obviously this video cost a little bit less to make than something like the Severance breakdown. But for us, when we're doing this and we're placing these ads, that's the key. The reason we're front loading some of these ad placements is because that's where the majority of people are viewing the content, right? We have about a 50% average view percentage. People mostly get halfway through our videos. I think that's a little bit because that's where we put in things like our
Sponsors.
Our sponsors, right? And they're like, okay, I watched enough of this video. Let me get out of here. So this is how we do it. This is the efficiencies that we've learned. So if you're trying to kind of play the algorithm game, hopefully that's helpful advice. But truly, changing the way that we've done ad placements has effectively, we had a really killer year when Marvel was putting out some really killer content. And then we had a down year the year after where we got half as many views, but we kept consistent ad revenue because we had made this change to place our ads in a more strategic way. So I would recommend doing, this. It looks really user unfriendly, but the way that YouTube's algorithm is working is they're not serving every single one of these ads to every single one of its users. They're picking a strategic time to show you an ad. Now, I'm going to go to this panel here because they're changing the way ad placements work, right? You can see some of these are red. That is a new feature, and YouTube is like deeming these ad placements as interruptive. And that's going to change how we make content on YouTube. I don't exactly know how yet, but the way that we understand this change is that YouTube is going to be looking for more organic places to put these ads and these ad breaks. What does that mean? A change in visuals, a gap in audio? We're not totally sure. That's unfortunate for us because we try to make these videos as tight as possible. We try to make our assemblies, breathless. So this is what it looks like right now. I'm sure that will change in a few months.
A few days.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But this has been successful for us. So, I would encourage you to play around with this kind of stuff. It seems kind of boring, but it is really important. All right. Now, Evan.
Yes.
This was a little demo of how our production works on the new Rockstars side of things. We have a sister channel called The Break Room, which Evan produces. And if you want to kind of introduce what The Break Room is, or do you want me to?
Let's watch the sizzle.
Let's watch the sizzle. Let's watch the sizzle.
Welcome back to The Break Room, everybody. Is John Barenthal back as the Punisher? And what does that mean for other cameos we might get?
Jessica, you'll never make it into Planet of the Apes. I said one day.
Come on, man.
What we're like in Australia.
Everybody's just tall as hell?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
We're going to pee on you and you're going to enjoy it and you're going to be part of our cult.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we like to call a surprise witness to the stand of Mr. Joseph, who is the clone of my client, Magnus, a.k.a. Eric Lynch, a.k.a. Max Eisenhower, a.k.a. Magneto.
You would never shoot a movie at 18 and interpolate it up to 24. Okay? That's absolutely fucking absurd. Madam Web.
And then I can imagine an executive freaking out and going like, we need an attractive white girl in this movie.
Sorry, Evan. Already off to a bad start.
I want that 68 angle, Charleston Heston's angle.
I want an angle for my generation. I don't want my grandpa's angle.
Get that grandpa angle out of here.
And I'm just a simple country lawyer. I don't know anything about passing on mutant genes. Polaris? What, just because she can control metal, she must be the daughter of my client?
Yeah.
That's racist.
Let Deathbird step on my face. Oh my God.
Okay.
Did any of what we say made sense? Let us know in the comments.
Please.
Later, skaters.
Awesome. So yeah, The Break Room, started off as a daily live show on New Rockstars, started by John. It was just kind of updating people on Marvel news, other nerdy news. It's now its own channel. We do semi-daily live streams, both on Twitch and YouTube. And we, just talk about the news, variety show. You saw there's a lot of games, a lot of fun to be had. Unscripted, lots of different hosts. Yeah, a lot of fun. But it takes a lot to make this work. And as John has said earlier, we have a pretty small team. You can go to the next slide, John. We use Blackmagic's gear to kind of make this all happen. So we have 4 the Blackmagic Studio Camera 4Ks, all going into the Blackmagic ATEM Extreme ISO. That's where we started. Now we've added more cameras. We've added some Sony cameras and Canon cameras. We use the Constellation, what is it, the ME 4K, ME2? 2
4K.
Yeah. So we have the ability to add a lot more inputs, and that's kind of how we have the flexibility to kind of move around our studio set, using all these cameras, being able to like bring in, footage from the internet. We use the Stream Deck and the BitFocus to, kind of act as our switcher to control the Constellation and those things. And yeah, we have these big live streams where we do something like the Super Bowl, where we streamed live during it with like 10 camera inputs, a lot of people jumping in and jumping out, very chaotic, but it all kind of works because all these like different hardware and software, talks to each other really well. And we're able to control a lot of that with very, because everything acts as a home base, with BitFocus bringing all of it together, one person is pretty much doing everything, all the switching, kind of all the audio as well. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the algorithm already. One of the things we learned is like YouTube is preferring longer and longer videos. We were trying to find a way to, make an hour of content every single day. How do you do that with the small team that we have? Obviously YouTube wants the content to be longer so that people stay on their platform for longer. We want the content to be longer again so we can serve more ads to people. So that was the task, right? How do you take what our audience wants from us, which is, our audience is full of Marvel, DC, Star Wars fans. What can you do for an hour that is like a low lift, not heavily post dependent product? And so a live broadcast was something that we had experimented with in the past. During the Spider-Man No Way Home craze, we found we did a reaction with a bunch of folks at the company, and people in our audience seemed to really like that. So we were tasked to create this like daily live show. And so, yeah, we zipped through these slides, but I'll go back real fast. What we wanted to do was like be broadcast quality, with the crew and the budget that we could afford. And the budget is minuscule, right? So the crew is Evan as a producer, running teleprompter, looking at chat, asking questions, doing all of that kind of stuff. And then one technical director. So we don't have any camera operators. All of our cameras are fixed at this point, but, using these Blackmagic products and specifically BitFocus, this is not our BitFocus. It's a crappy screen grab of something I found online. Elgato's booth is also over there if you want to check this stuff out later. And there's some BitFocus folks over there as well. But essentially this is like a macro controller. So we can map these buttons to do a camera cut and a lower third at the same time and bring up a host's audio and all of that kind of stuff. So, using Blackmagic products and the Stream Deck and Companion has made it so that we don't have to have a director and a technical director and a graphics person and someone doing audio. We have that person as one TD. My production heart breaks a little bit that we can't hire all of these people out. But the truth is, we want to have as much ambition as possible with the budget that is allotted to us. So being able to do all of this stuff is great. This is what our buttons actually look like. And you can see, we've got a bunch of cameras that we can cut to, and then all of these different buttons that have, sponsor lower thirds and all this kind of random stuff. But back to the Super Bowl show, right? This was a show where we said, okay, we want to take what we normally do and go max. So our normal show is just 5 cameras. We've got a wide, a couple of singles, producer cam, and that's about it. And when we were talking about the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl, the football is not that interesting to our audience, but the trailers are something that we were highly anticipating. Didn't really work out for us this year. It didn't really release that many trailers, but we wanted to be able to do a maximum show. So what that looked like for us is how can we take what we're doing and expand it to not just the break room set, but you can see, bottom left, we have a little couch where we were doing some reactions and a dog cameo, but then one of our hosts had to go write a video. And so we have a desk set up, to have him be able to kind of chime in whenever he wanted to. There's me in the bottom right. I don't know why we had a camera on me, but it was how can we maximize what we're doing? And this is the same amount of crew. This is Evan at his producer desk. This is me being the technical director and a cast of 5. And we were able to really pull this off without, a ton of headache because of the way that Blackmagic and BitFocus and the Stream Deck all integrate. Our studio is booked. And so when you're talking about trying to basically rewire our entire studio, we were able to do that in hours. So that is really the advantage that we have. We try to make all this stuff as plug and play as possible. And without these tools, I don't know a better way of doing it with the budget that we have. So yeah, we ended up doing 9 cameras for the Super Bowl show, 4 hyperdecks. We use those for graphics. We don't use those as recorders. 2 computer sources so that we could get the trailers loaded up, all that kind of stuff. We were on 3 sets. And then, it's a little cut off here, infinite camera combinations. What we would also do is, with Blackmagic sort of super source, capabilities, we could have, for example, we could be on the wide shot and then have a picture in picture of someone on a different set so that we could have communication between different people on different sets. So really it was just we try to be as efficient as possible and these are the tools that we use to make all of that happen.
Yeah.
We're running out of time a little bit. If anyone has any very specific questions, we're happy to answer those.
For your breakdown videos, I was curious, out of the 16 hours, how much time are you spending on each process? Specifically the research and watching, that's.
Yeah, totally. So the good thing about making 500 videos a year is that a lot of the time the research is done, right? It's up here. So what it looks like for us is a 10 a.m. content call. Content team is 5 people. We'll sit down, we'll talk about a topic that's interesting to us or we think our audience would be interested in the next day. Then any one of our hosts will write that video from 10 a.m. to about 5 p.m. Sometimes it slips into, later hours. I don't have you probably have more insight on the writing process.
I mean, I think the 16 hours is from shoot, right? Shoot
to publish.
Yeah. So I think it depends on how early we decide we want to do something. If we have access to the material ahead of time, sometimes because we straddle the line between influencers and press outlets, we get screeners early and that helps us, spend more time writing something if we know we're going to cover it, ahead of time.
Yeah. That's a good point, right? This video, Avengers versus X-Men, was, this chair announcement thing happened. It stretched into the afternoon. So we wrote this video in 90 minutes. That was quick. And quite honestly, if we look at this situation, Eric would have been at the break room desk writing the video while he's sitting there trying his best to remain engaged. And so, that video would have been written in 90 minutes, something like the severance breakdown. Like Evan said, we'll get that. We got episode of Severance, 4 or 5 days early?
Yeah.
So we would take that time and write those breakdowns over that. But in terms of the edit, right, we're really not escalating that process. We're giving that time to the content team so that they can find as much information as possible. And we're still trying to turn the videos around in the same amount of time. The difference is we just have more people working on the videos and we split that up into smaller chunks. Yeah.
One more.
So I'm curious about your copyright clearance piece. Because in 16 hours and, Jessica and Kendrick Lamar, like I know a lot of that has to be cleared. What is that process and how fast is that process before everything goes live?
Look, we're at NAB. This is being recorded. Interesting. We don't have rights clearances. It's all under copyright fair use. So because we're doing commentary on all of this stuff, it is under fair use, commentary specifically. Now, YouTube has content ID. And so oftentimes what stretches the time to publish, if you're like waiting on a video from us and it's not coming out, it's because we're fighting content ID and we're trying to use tips and tricks to reduce the frequency that content ID flags our content. So we are not showing, it's really hard to do music. And you're right, Jess has done a great job with those Kendrick Lamar breakdowns. But we sort of ask her to keep clips to 15 seconds or less. We found that helps. And then sometimes we'll upload a video and it'll be flagged for demonetization. And then we have to go back into the edit and shorten every single sequence over the course of a few hours to get that video out. So yeah, basically what we're doing is trying to keep things as small as possible so that it doesn't get flagged. And then oftentimes, we have a whole paragraph that we had a lawyer write. So when it gets flagged after the fact, we're like, hey, this is fair use and here's how all of that stuff works. So it's sometimes a little bit of a crapshoot, but that like keeping things under 15 seconds seems to be kind of the sweet spot for how it works for us. We also have nice relationships with Disney and Warner Brothers and those types of folks. So our channels aren't whitelisted, but every once in a while we can kind of ask them questions and figure out how to work better on this type of stuff. Yeah. Any other questions? People?
You mentioned you did a live show. I was just curious, like during the live show, did you interact with the chat? And also, were there any learnings that you found, since a lot of your content is pre-recorded, that may steer you toward more live content?
Yeah, so Evan produces The Break Room, which is live 3 times a week.
Yeah. So, I mean, we used to stream on YouTube. We used to get a lot more views when it was just on YouTube. On Twitch, we built more of a community with the chat. When we have these big streams like the Super Bowl or Comic-Con, we simulcast on Twitch and YouTube. It's a very different atmosphere on both audiences, but it's fun to interact, and we feel like Twitch is a nice focused community, whereas YouTube, it's more like, well, are there people super chatting? Like we'll talk to them and we'll figure it out. So the Break Room is live, and it's fun to do it live because for us it eases up on post-production time, right? We normally run with very minimal edits to the live cut, whether it was like a mistake or something like that. But the energy of it is great. So I love doing it, and hopefully we keep doing it, Yeah.
And if you're really curious about our live production, we're going to be at the Blackmagic booth at 4:00 going really specifically into just the live show.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. 3:15 at the Blackmagic booth.
4:00.
4:00. New Rockstars. Let's give it up, everybody. And we'll be talking about audio here in about 10 minutes. Podcasting, audio, sound, all those 15-second things you ought to know about. So
amazing.
Thank you.
And if anyone has any questions, we'll hang out on the side and you can come grab us for a little while.